follow the cross now to the north for yet another word, this time from Reverend Isabel Docampo, who is a professor at Berkeley School of Theology.
What a beautiful morning. If you haven't guessed by now, the text that they asked us to think about was the text of the blessed bees and the woes to you. I think y'all guessed it, right? So it's really interesting that we're gathering here on a day that we call Good Friday, like John alluded in the very beginning. The first Friday was nothing but good. It was a day of terror. But of course we know the end of the story. We live on the other side of the resurrection. So we know that Jesus' death was not the last word. So we can call it good. As we walk the city of Dallas a little bit, can y'all hear me? Yes. Okay. Yeah. A little bit. What I imagine was Jesus. That we should remember how Jesus walked and walked his entire ministry. I think it's a reminder that he was not a wealthy man, that he walked and walked his entire ministry. And I imagine, I invite you to imagine with me, that last week in Jerusalem, when he was back in Jerusalem, as he walked and talked to the people, he continued to beckon his disciples, that according to which, depending on which gospel you're reading, sometimes they got it and sometimes they didn't. But he continued to beckon to them and to the crowds, the people that were following him, to continue to commit themselves to God's compassion and desire for justice. And he didn't protect them from the truth of the difficulties. We live in an era where people come to church and I feel like they come and we protect them. We protect ourselves and each other from the difficulties that are everywhere around us. Like we don't talk about the elephant in the room, which is all the things that are going on. Jesus did not do that. Instead, he helped them to see the bigger picture. He asked them to take the long view. And that is why I think he talked in terms of blessed be and woe to you. He was trying to be clear. He was trying to help them see the long view. That what we see here and what we live here is not God's hope and not God's final word. Can you imagine with me, I think is what Jesus was saying. So what does that mean for us? Those of us who are here, we're Christians and we're trying to follow Jesus. So I think we have to take very seriously both the blessed bees and the woe to you. And I don't know about you, but I like to kind of not read those woes to you. I kind of live in the blessed bees. That's what I like to do. And what would Jesus say? What and to whom would Jesus say in this beautiful city that we live in? Blessed be. And to what and to whom would Jesus say, woe to you? Hermanos que están aquí, que hablan español, lo que les quiero decir es que estoy pensando en las palabras de Jesucristo, que siempre decía, and look at the other in the eye, the eyes to the soul, and see God's beloved child there. As you're working for the healing, as you're washing the feet, as you're binding up. It's all very important. Can you imagine what the world would be like if each one of us looks out for each other's best interests? Can you imagine a world? ¿Se pueden imaginar un mundo en que todos estamos buscando lo que es mejor para el otro? What would that be like? We would not have to worry about our rights and defend ourselves and get in that defensive posture because, hey, you know what? He's looking out for me. What a different world that would be. What a vision of solidarity. What a vision of mutuality and compassion. What a vision of love. I think that's what the symbol of the washing is all about, the foot washing. That's what Jesus wants us to do. And even though we're not there yet, the kingdom of God is here, yet not yet. I do believe that we see glimpses of that. And we see glimpses of that not only in the big heroes that we have that feed our faith, people like Martin Luther King and Oscar Romero and Fannie Lou Hamer and Desmond Tutu, but we see it in the glimpses of people, ordinary Christians. And I have hope in that. I have hope in God's grace. And one of those people, I did not, no sabía que iba a tener una comunidad salvadoreña cuando escogí esta historia. I did not know that we were going to have a Salvadoran group here when I chose to share the story of one of those heroes in my life. Her name is Amparo Palacios. Amparo Palacios was from Mexico. She went to Mexico as a young woman to the seminary there, fell in love with a young man from El Salvador. And these two seminarians went back to El Salvador, and she lived her life in El Salvador, co-pastoring with her husband in San Salvador and raising her children there. And as you all know, things got very difficult in El Salvador, and they were there. And this was one of the few Baptist churches. I'm a Baptist clergy, so I'm very proud of that Baptist witness. One of the few Baptist churches that chose to speak truth to the government and worked alongside Oscar Romero's efforts. The large Catholic church, this tiny little Baptist church, and a few others were trying to do that as well. So Amparo and Edgar were on a death list for many years. And it got to the point where the threats got very real and very close, and Amparo fled the country. She came to the United States, and I met her in my Baptist church in Washington, D.C. Penniless, came with kindness of training, came on faith, and she lobbied. In the morning, she would lobby Congress and testify to what was happening in her country.